I'll never leave you. We sit by me when the seasons sway.
Hey, Stay. Hey, y'all. We live.
Now disconnected from Cloud
Appreciation Day?
Yeah, you know, the day got computer with me too. Computer. Stop. Close program. You coming back?
Well, not just because
Computer.
don't we do that?
Close program.
Daily, what's your point? No point, sir. In that case, we are completely ready. Great.
No.
Even bigger than yesterday.
Computer.
Right.
Stop, please. Welcome to the Coach in the Fight show. You'll be like, that discombobulated. Are we even live? Nope. We ain't got nobody looking, nobody like. Everybody ain't gonna want to hear this one anyway. Well, we talking about birthdays. The worst days. Y'all can't hear me? Somebody gotta say something. Somebody gotta wiggle, hit the like button, something to let me know we live, or I'm gonna have to start this thing all over again. Oh, I know what it was. That song we played at the beginning. I got no problem starting it over. What's that sound? The sound that we live. Somebody can hear. Yep, we got one person looking, one person liking. We appreciate you. I think they're gonna self-identify too. Mr. Keith Fillinger, crown number 1 says, good morning. I just got the notification. Yep, we just got permission to go live this morning. You tell it was more than just me because of how Stacy walked in just as we were starting. And so she'll be back. We'll be talking about birthdays. Wow, it's really interesting. This is the trick. I don't know how much I can say or how much I can't say about birthdays. You're gonna have to draw lots. I'm gonna draw lots on this one. Let's have a moment of silence. Because Stacy's birthday is tomorrow. Hey, Stacey. Welcome back to the show. Did you hear what I just said before you came in? Hopefully they did. Oh, we live. I just got started when you came through the door, so we ain't started yet, but I do have permission. And so we rolling. Live. You want to say anything before we get started? Like, for instance, about the feast days. The last voice they heard was our guest here at Tabernacles. He might jump down in the comment section, so I ain't gonna. I'll let him self-identify too. But they haven't heard. They heard him talk about homestead. I think one of the commenters said that they were glad to hear that the hillbilly homestead was a reality. What do you think about that? Are we in a reality or are we not in reality? The microphone is over there.
Existed? Understand that it exists?
Yeah, that it exists. That is not a figment of our imagination. That is not a like a television program or a YouTube program. Not like it's staged. You know, I can get here and find out that it ain't real.
It's real. We're real people.
You said land. You know we're real people. We're talking about the land.
Because yeah.
He talked about how spacious it is. He talked about how he went out there and got some herbs that got to deal with his medical issue. He talked about how he lost weight doing the work that we have to do around here. He talked about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. We were glad to have him here. Hated to see him go, but true brother.
True brother. I'm sorry.
We definitely appreciate him and his wife making the sacrifice of him being here You know, there's other things he could have been doing, other places he could have been, but he chose to spend his time with us. So we definitely, I think hopefully he learned from us. We learned from, I think we learned some stuff from him. So as well as his wife. So it was a nice time.
And we did learn some stuff from him. One of the things that we did learn was about birthdays. We learned about birthdays. He had done a study in the Testament of Solomon, and we're going to talk about that and how he has discovered that birthdays are actually the worst. Birthdays. The title of this video, if I gave these live streams titles, would be "Birthdays Are the Worst." And you say, well, worst what? Worst of everything. It's the worst of all of the holidays, first of all. Out of all of the pagan holidays, Bible willing, we're going to find out through this series of classes, no doubt, that your personal birthday, or anybody's birthday for that matter, is more wicked than any other day on the calendar. Christmas, Easter, even Halloween does not even compare to the level of wickedness as your own birthday. I know Stacey might scat on us, so.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I'll be here a little while. You know, I'll give folks whatever signal I give and say I'm out
She's
here.
trying to race the sun and get out there in the garden. You know, the longer she stays here with us, the hotter her day will be out there in the sun. So, but anyway, before she does speed off, understand the gist of what I'm saying here when I say it's the worst. You can imagine a person has taken on a certain level of a rebellion that has gotten them to the point of reprobation. But what's beyond that? When reprobation or in rebellion, many times we've taken on what you hear us call the Thyatira spirit, or what we should call the Thyatira spirit. Sometimes we call it the Jezebel spirit or the Ahab spirit, but it's the church of Thyatira who entertains the idea of eating food, sacrificing the idols, and committing fornication. Of course, that's breaking the first and second commandments, respectively. So, but that's only, and I shouldn't say only because it will get you cut off, participating in holidays like Christmas and Easter, where you're actually making sacrifices unto false gods. But what's even beyond that? Like I said, we're talking about the worst here. All of that is just heresy. Well, when you read in the Testament of Solomon, it talks about the worst. And in there, he says that he's going to put these bonds on you. If you reference the Testament of Solomon, verse 41. And when you read in these bonds, what you find out is that these bonds are associated with birthdays. I don't call the name out too much. I'm trying not to pronounce them. Because some people actually worship these as gods. The God of birthdays. You can look it up. The God of birthdays. You can look it up. You can Google it. What is the God of birthdays? They'll say it for me. And so essentially what's happening is, after we have worshipped these other gods, these other lower level gods, the gods of Christmas, the gods of Easter, the gods of Halloween, and those gods are no longer, should I say, good enough for us, we actually go on to celebrate a birthday for ourselves, no doubt, where we turn ourselves into gods. You believe that? So in other words, you, by celebrating your birthday, put yourself above all of those other gods. You're above the Christmas God now. The Easter God is below you. One would argue you have put yourself on the level of God, at least to the amount of those who actually participated in your party with you. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All that came to your party has elevated you above God, and that is the purpose of a birthday party, going all the way back to its Egyptian origins with the Pharaoh, turned himself into God by celebrating what was then known as Man's Day. The same day that Job's sons were participating in. You have to go back to the Hebrew to understand this. Guys that's doing all this chat GPT stuff, you're going to have to quickly tell it that you don't want none of the nonsensical stuff. You want to look at the Hebrew. Tell it to speak to you from a Hebrew Israelite perspective. And look at the word in Job chapter 1 and verse 4, I think it is, or maybe 3, where it says that they were celebrating Ish Yamama. Isha Yamama. What is Isha Yamama? You know what Ish is? You know what an Ish is? Based on Isha?
Yeah.
Huh?
Isha?
Yeah, what is it?
Isha is woman, right? Is it?
Close, no. You're on the right track. Now I'm with you. What is a Ish? Computer. Open chat GPT.
Hello, I am a chat robot powered by ChatGPT. Do you want to get started now?
Yes.
What do you want to chat about?
Hebrew words and the word Isha versus woman's version of the word.
Short answer. Ish equals man, masculine form. Aisha equals woman or wife, feminine form. Notes. Different roots. Ish comes from dash, Aisha from. Spelling. Ish ends with final slash. Aisha ends with. Would you like examples in sentences or a quick chart of other gender Hebrew pairs?
Okay. The difference is the man raising his hand at the end. The Isha is the man that is spelled with Allah Shana.
Answer. Hebrew masculine versus
Computer.
feminine forms.
Stop.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. She gave us a quick class. The Isha is 2 letters. It's Allah and Shana. You would call it A and SH in English. If somebody were to write it out for you, you call it Ash. Ash. And it means man. Now, if you put the man raising his hands at the end, like a man praying, you have Ishaha. That's the woman. So that extra letter, the Hawa'a at the end, makes it into a woman. So they were celebrating Man Day. Yama. Now, not just Man Day. The ish in the phrase, looking at the Hebrew, the ish in the word is man. The yamam or yamama is a 3-syllable word. You may think I'm trying to say yam, which means day. Yam means day. But the plural word yamama, when covered in the class that we're working on, actually means year. Like the plural of day, you've gone to year. And so what they're doing is they're celebrating the annual day called Man's Day. This is like I said, a pagan holiday, goes all the way back to Greek's time. Man's Day, that's what Pharaoh was doing. But it actually goes back farther than that, actually to Cain's Day. What we discovered in this class is that that's why I would stand up and argue in front of anybody who would dare listen, that Cain's offering was rejected, not because he had vegetables, not because he gave his poorest fruit, but because he actually celebrated and gave his offering on his own birthday. He made an offering to the Lord on his birthday. So there are actually 3 birthdays in the Bible: Cain, Pharaoh, Herod. What?
You can't say that
Why?
emphatically.
Why? All you talking about?
I would say,
Why wouldn't you say it? Why
I
can I
would
say?
say that from.
I mean, wait. What?
I guess I would say from the
We can't
evidence
make
that
it up.
you assume that you got, not assume, that's a bad word, but that I I mean, can we say that it's absolutely sure that it was did on his birthday?
Who?
Cain. Yeah,
The word there, when you look, it says the Hebrew word, and I'm in memory space now, but the Hebrew word was at the end of the year. When the year came to the end. Now, what other year did they have? They didn't have festival days. They didn't have Enoch days. Enoch hadn't wrote the calendar for them and tell them how things work. So what other day was there for him to be celebrated? There was now feast day in only feast day that Adam and Eve know about. And somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. If they read the book of Adam and Eve and they just breaking stuff up. But the only feast day that they know about was the Sabbath day. They hadn't got Passover yet, Pentecost, Tabernacles, none of them. Hanukkah, Purim, all of those feast days were instituted later on. And so, and again, it was pointing to an annual event. Yamama is annual. It didn't say Yom. If it said Yom, it could have been any other 364 days of the year. But it said Yamama, which is a yearly thing. So this was a yearly thing that he was doing. And that's important to know when you get to Pharaoh, who was actually in his third year before he heard about it. He was in his third birthday. It sounds as if, he had been celebrating his birthday for 3 days. But how do you celebrate your birthday for 3 days? You can't, right? And so what it's saying, and what's hidden in obscurity through all of this, spelling and all of this other stuff that's going on in English, what it was saying was his third time having a birthday. In other words, as if he's had a birthday 1 year, he's come back and had a birthday another year, and here's the third year, he's actually about to kill his cupbearer, his bread maker, his baker. And that's important to know because somebody has to get killed in each one of these birthdays. Cain does his birthday and he kills Abel. Pharaoh does his birthday, he kills the cupbearer. Herod does his birthday, he kills John the Baptist. So what do you have in common? They're all killing the word of God. 3 days. I ain't gonna say, well, they're all killing the word of God 3 days after their birthday. And one could argue, I would argue, I'm standing with those that would say 3 years. And so I'm making up stuff. Some of this is straight up made up. Especially the next thing that I'm about to say. And so what it seems is that once these rulers start celebrating their birthday, they're going to start off 1 year celebrating their birthday. Year 1, year 2, by year 3, somebody dying. Somebody going to die. That's part of it, like a sacrifice. It's part of the birthday process. And that there is what I believe. Like I said, I'm making up stuff now. We stayed up on eagle's wings now. We in the dirt. After you have celebrated your birthday, you've gotten people down to worship you as a god for 3 years, you now have to prove it because somebody's got to die. And if you're not willing to sacrifice another person, it's going to be you. You will have to sacrifice yourself. Those are the bonds of Artemis. You've turned yourself into a god, and now you're either going to be that god and carry your people to hell with you, or you're about to have a correction and you're going to die for it. And so and so that's what it means in the Testament of Solomon. We've started off in deception, we've gone all the way through strife and battle and jealousy and power and even committing an error. That didn't help us. And now he's about to put these bonds on us. And the reason why it's a bond is because just like any other transgression, there's a time element associated with it. And so if you celebrate your birthday for 12 hours, you will be cursed, cut off for 12 months. Each hour is equivalent to a month. And so if you steadily do your birthday, you cursed until your next birthday. You going to do it again? Now you curse to your next birthday. You going to do it again? Now you curse to your next birthday. That is the bonds. You never get out of it. Of course, until somebody educates you on the matter. And then when you see your birthday coming like you do, you understand that these people are coming to harm you. Not against them. You're not fighting against people, but principalities and powers. These people who are too under the bonds of Artemis are coming to do their job on you. And that's why they're going to be on Facebook talking about this and that, and, trying to keep you in this perpetual sin of the bonds of Artemis, where you yourself are trying to make yourself a god here on earth. Trying to turn yourself into an idol. Birthdays turn you into an idol. Above any other idol. Like I said, it's the worst. Anyway, want to take some comments before you go? Don't read? I see we had a lot. Go back up to the beginning. On there. Go ahead, you can get.
Oh, okay.
Don't wait, but be careful, be careful.
Um,
Go back up to the top. We got 13 people looking, 7 people liking.
Have you read any of them?
Keep feeling it, girl, but you can read his twice.
Kip Billinger says, good morning. I just got the notification.
Good morning.
Good morning, Keith. Shea No Culture says hi.
Hello. Make sure you pronounce the names right. With our YouTube, they gave me a, they try to help us out. And they said that's one thing people love is when you say their name. Some people are only making a comment just so you can say their name on live.
So it's Chanel Couture. Sorry. Miss Dimples says Shalom.
Hey, Miss Dimple, shalom.
Auburn Faber. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, all in favor.
The Vaulted Media says, hello, brother and sister. How are you?
Actually doing very well. Glad for action. Actually doing better than we've been in a little while. And I give credit, all praise and honor to our Father in heaven. Hallowed be his name, Yahweh. And his feast days. One of the things we've learned over the course of the feast days is one of the main purposes of the feast day, guys, is feast together. Once we get to a certain level, you heard of people being unevenly yoked. You heard, the Gentiles versus the heathen. You heard all this kind of stuff. Well, going back down to the Pilgrim and the Indian days, that's how they were able to get along, even for a few minutes, was to actually have a feast and eat together, because that's probably the only thing they had in common. Couldn't speak the same language, probably you can imagine they sitting there looking at each other, but both understood having a feast in the name of the Lord, and so they was able to get together. And that's what that feast, that's one of the main reasons for that feast, is we're able to bring people in and feast. And we ain't going to their house and begging them for food or expecting them to put out like a holiday dinner. No, this is the feast of the Lord, and so we bring them into our house and we feed them. And by doing so, I believe, and by have done so, things are going a little bit better around here. What you think, Stan?
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're off to a new start, Praise our Father in heaven, hallowed be his name. Thank you for asking.
Mayel says, thankfully everyone had a joyous Feast of Tabernacle and enjoying a rest for Sabbath. He also says, interesting, you are speaking about birthdays. On my travel this week, I noticed that a number of hospitals are listing the births for that day, month, on the marquee. Mm-hmm. Our birthday marks the day we entered into a life of sin.
Yeah, okay, that's, I don't know if you know what he's talking about, but yeah, that's what we're talking about. And once you do your birthday, you done entered into a different level of sin. A different level. By the time you done did that, yeah, you over Christmas. That don't even faze you no more. You need to be your own God. And what they're doing then, I'm just making up stuff. What they're doing by listing the births of these people, they're actually trying to give them their last elevation into godhood before they die. In other words, you can ride by there and remember old Mr. Johnny that you used to know and be like, oh, his birthday coming up. And you could actually go have a birthday party for him in his sight. He ain't even got to be there. And you could be elevating him and his spirit, and turning him into a God. But what is that going to do with him on his deathbed that you're doing that to him? That may be one of the ways I've been working on, trying to figure out how it is that we keep people trapped down here. Are we keeping them trapped down here? They can't go to heaven because we're celebrating their birthdays?
Keith Billinger says birthdays equate to pride. Most people are the opposite of humble on their birthdays.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Remember I said that yesterday. They get blasphemous.
Right.
They get straight up blasphemous. They'll say anything out their mouth. Don't go in there on nobody's birthday talking about the Lord because they're about to blaspheme the Lord. Because it's their birthday, they feel like they can say anything. I've noticed that too. Kids, everybody. They show out on their birthday. It's my party, I can cry if I want to. The birthday gives them the right, and that's what that day is. One day they are God. They can do anything they want to. You know? And the thing about it, what we find out in the Bible, and what we find out in the comparing the reason, because that's another thing I did in this video, was I compared countries who celebrate public birthdays for their presidents. And he talked about places like North Korea and Russia, and all of these places has been doing this for a long time. And yeah, how it ends up being a test of loyalty and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, go ahead.
Rory Princess says, Shalom, coach and family.
Roy Prince, it's good
Look,
to see you.
peace,
Long
love,
time no
light.
hear from you. You was feasting hard. She shut YouTube down, but she like, I ain't got nothing to do with YouTube. Welcome back. You missed a lot.
Kwame Yell says, looking at the pictures, they were displaying every baby looked mad, grumpy, or sad. Not a single baby was born with a look of happiness or joy on their face. Just found this interesting.
Oh, you talking about babies. I thought you were talking about old people. Now, the babies, same. They're trying to elevate these babies. See, what did the Bible say? That the children will lead us in. And so these adults now who have put all of their faith in pagan holidays, realizing that none of them is going to help them, is thinking kind of along the same lines as the Jetsons, where we think our kids are going to grow up and they're going to take care of us. You know, they're going to be these big athletes or these big businessmen or whatever, and they're going to be able to help us to get to those places that we weren't able to get to. And so that's why you're having birthday parties for your kids. You're turning your kids into these gods you want them to be. This hasn't always gone on. When you go back to the Bible days, back in the Job days, it was called Ish Day. It was not Isha Day. In fact, women weren't even allowed to participate. Children either. It was called Ish Day. It was Man's Day. Only men were able to participate. This now, what we have birthday parties for children and even women is part of Western culture. It was didn't start until the 18th and 19th century. Did regular people start having birthdays. Before these so-called 19th century and these regular people start participating in their own homes, only people that had Ish Day or celebrated Ish Day were leaders, pharaohs, kings, Ahasuerus. Is one of the, that's one of the people that came up on the list. Who else came up on the list? Anyway, so very few. There was like only 7 people in the whole Bible that celebrated this day, Ish Day. And the thing is, like I said, it was Man's Day at first. Women weren't allowed to participate until you start getting into the very names of the people that's listed in the Testament of Solomon. When you start getting into those names, and those are the Greek names, those who are actually looking at it, then women start to participate in Ish Day. And so what you have is a change, and kids get to start participating in the Ish Day because it's not Man's Day anymore, it's birthdays. You know, everybody got a birthday. And so they changed it. It's progressed over time from being Man's Day, where the Pharaoh was changing himself into a god, to a time where anybody can participate. But my point is it's the exact same feast festivals with the cakes and the candles and all that other stuff that go with it. It's the whole process. And this is also, Jason, you can jump in any time. This is also what the scripture is talking about when it says we will no longer have to worship the moon and the sun. See, this God of the birthdays, she is actually the twin sister of the same God that they make vows to in the medical industry. Remember that? We did a class on that? That was actually mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, Polyon. Or when you go back to the Hippocratic Oath, they call it by its God name. It doesn't put that seed at the end. But what we find out is that that's the in Greek mythology, and I've been having to lean on that just a tiny bit, like maybe they think maybe something understanding is going on, and so what it turns out, they're twins. The god over the so-called healing of the medical industry, like I said, the one they make the they used to make the Hippocratic oath to, is the twin brother of the god over the birthdays. And so they're hand in hand. They're locked together. Medical and stuff like that. We should explain. Anyway, there were. We ain't gonna pick on our presidents and stuff.
You want me to finish these comments?
Yeah, keep going.
Royal Princess says,
Unless I didn't answer that one. I feel like I didn't answer that one.
About the baby faces looking sad.
Oh, about the babies. Yeah, so they're elevating the baby. I don't know about the baby faces looking sad. I wouldn't be looking at those pictures anyway. The thing about it, and one of the things that we learned over the course of the feast, though I learned, I'm making up stuff. You learn stuff on the feast day, then we got to spend half the year trying to find the verses to match it. But something I've kind of thought on beforehand is that by taking pictures, you actually hurt the person. And here's the example. Y'all tell me if I'm off track. So we had these puppies. And we still got a couple of these puppies. Anybody, want a puppy? We still got the best of them because I gave the other ones away first. The ones that, the ones that was nippy and didn't all of that. So anyway, so you got the pick of the litter puppy. I was watching because I wanted to see which one was the pick of the litter because I was considering keeping one of the puppies. And so I was looking, and so we got this one puppy while the other 5 is still under the porch, sleeping or whatever. He's out there standing with the big dogs already. And so he's already identified himself as the pick of the litter. He's the alpha male out of all the 5 puppies. And I'm noticing that I'm paying attention to it. Even trying to convince the kids that they want this particular puppy. If they were to pick one, I'm like, y'all need to get this one because this is the smart one. So anyway, there's a neighbor up the street, pastor of the church, who actually needs a dog. Her dog, she had to get rid of him because he was a German Shepherd and she couldn't handle it. But this is a bully, and so she could. And so I text the pick of the litter up there to give it to her. And she and her other relatives decides that, she doesn't really want it or whatever. But here you have the pick of the litter out there running around the yard, proving that it's a bully and it's ready to be the greatest family dog in the world. They decide they don't actually want the dog. They want a picture of the dog, and they goes over and takes a picture of the dog. Breaking the 2nd commandment. So obviously things aren't going to go well. So I bring the puppy on back home with me. A little bit disappointed, but I'm used to that. The very next day, within 24 hours, probably 12 hours later, this puppy decides that it's going to growl and try to take food out of the mouth of his own mama. And she pretty near bit his face off. I know what a dog bite feels like. You ain't been bit by a dog until it's actually a puncture wound. And the teeth sink down into your skin. That's a dog bite. If it's just a scratch, he ain't bite you. You pull it away. She left a crater in his face, didn't she say?
Right.
She left a hole, probably looked like it could have went halfway through his eyeball and you could have stuck it down. I ain't gonna be going. Yeah, anyway, the dog don't look like that no more. They done took a picture of this dog. And this dog is deformed. His face don't look like that. And I think that's what we're doing to these babies. Maybe that's why the babies were frowning. They was actually trying to distort their face so you wouldn't actually see what they was looking like. They put on their clown face. Because if you actually caught their image, turning them into a god, posting it on downtown television where everybody can ride by with their birthday, no doubt. Turning these people into gods, they may have harmed every one of these children. Go back and look at them. Look at all of them children that you've seen 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. Probably every one of them would have gone through that something. Some of them faced and got burned off. Some of them dead. Some of them turned themselves into straight up evil beings because they leaned into it. Leaned into it. And now they about to be the most evilest people in the world. Anyway, what other comments before we get off track too far?
Royal Princess says, interesting about Cain, need to do further study on this.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because the Bible is trying to hide this stuff from us. The scripture's trying to hide this stuff from us. You know, do you have to be an electrical engineer to actually do this job? I would argue, so I wouldn't argue, but you know, I would try to be on y'all's side, but you have to understand machine code pretty much, because the computers are programmed not only to accept birthday parties, but Christians actually promote them. If you go in and try to say anything bad about a birthday party out loud, the Christians are going to be the first ones to jump up and tell you that, you know, you're supposed to be doing it.
A lot of people are.
Not like the Christian. The Christian is part of Christian doctrine because of the Messiah's birth. Part of Christian doctrine. Yeah, you're not going to go to the Jewish people and they're going to push birthday parties on you. If you go to the Jewish house and say, you know, y'all ain't supposed to be doing birthday parties, they may drop their head, you know, in silence. But if you go to the Christian house, they're going to start calling you Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff and mocking you and telling, you know, basically marginalizing you and gaslighting you. Basically, if you were to say anything about any of their other gods, like Christmas, they're going to turn on you. And
A lot of people are, you know, with all the information that we have, I'm finding that a lot of people, just from some of the, you know, channels that I see, a lot of people are starting to, you know, accept the information about birthdays and different holidays. And I'm not saying it's a whole lot of them, and I shouldn't say a lot of them. I'd say it's trickling in. So I think the more you push the information, the more people start digging into it, and they'll get a better understanding of it.
Well, what we need to understand is that verse, the Testament of Solomon 41, when he says that he will make you worse because he will put the bonds of Artemis on you. And I'll say it because of scripture, and I'm quoting the scripture. And then below that, it talks about another god that it is associated with. It's spelled something like Hecate. And the thing about it, when you research both of these names, that's down in the footnote. When you research both of these names, you find out that it's two heads of the same coin. This first, people worship it as if it's a good thing, the god of birthday parties. They have no problem. This is a lady, you'll see her depicted anytime you see an idol or an image of a woman with a bow and arrow. That's the idol. Every time you see, like in the what was that TV show I used to watch? Where those, it was like a post-apocalyptic situation where everybody's trying to live, and you had this one lady that carried around a bow and arrow, right? She's known as the hunter, and she's this, people, especially little girls, put trust in this god associated with birthdays. So you imagine you come over here and you wish this little girl a birthday party, and next thing you know, she's associated with this moon god, and that's what it is, the moon god. The other god we talked about, the APP god, he's associated with the sun god. And that's what the Father means. We're no longer going to have to rely on the light of the moon or the sun. We're no longer going to have to rely on those two gods, the moon god and the sun god. They're going to be thwarted and put it away as people start to discover that they have roots in idolatry and paganism and lower level gods taking us away from our Father in heaven. Anyway, what else?
Samuel says shalom, and he says he was asking what was the topic of today's study.
Birthdays are the worst. Birthdays are the worst is the topic of the study. We're learning that birthdays go back to idolatry, pagan holidays, no doubt. You know, all of the holidays do. Easter, Halloween, every one of these days can be traced back, even 9/11 days can be traced back to idolatry. Thing about birthdays, it can actually be traced back to the earliest form of idolatry. You understand that Babylon is the source of all of the pagan religions, right, Stay?
Right.
But we're going back before Babylon. We're going back before Babylon because Cain was actually participating. Like we said, Cain gave a sacrifice that we read about in Genesis chapter 4. When it's talking about how it came to an end of days. Let me get the Bible out so you can read it. What it says in the King James. Hold on. Let me get the bin too. Because the English, they're hiding it. They're hiding this fact. Even when you go to the books on demonology and angels, this particular God is not in there. That's how much to the level that they're hiding it, where they will list every other demon and God known to man, even the ones they're making up. But this one, which is considered the worst, is not actually in the book. And so when you come over here to chapter 4, it says, and in the process of time, it came to pass, and Cain brought the fruit of the ground and offering unto the Lord. So in that word, in the process of time, it came to pass. When you go back and look at the Hebrew to that, and we can, I got it right here. Sorry, you guys, you gotta, anyway. It's saying that at the end of the year. At the end of the year. Let me go over here. You talk a little bit while I go over and try to find it in the Hebrew. Y'all be ready to write down some Hebrew syllables.
Go to the next comment.
Wait. I'm gonna go to the whole next comment. It may distract. What did I say? 4 and what? What was it? 4, verse 4 and chapter 4 and verse 3. Chapter 4 and verse 3. You wanna read it with me? I'm gonna read it with me. Zayahaya Mayu Hara Ya Ma Yama Ya no Zaya Ba'a. So you see that word right there? Yama Yama? Right. That means years. If it was just Ya Ma, if it didn't have that extra syllable in and the extra Y, it would just be yam, as in one day. But the fact that they had that extra syllable in there, the extra yod in the middle, makes it plural. So now you're talking about what I've discovered. The only time you see that word is when it's associated with feast days or holidays, holy days. It ain't talking about today days, it's talking about big days. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's feast days. And so I did a search. I got the computer to help me. And I asked it to find all occasions in the scripture where this word is used. Of course, we got to go back to the Hebrew because the English is trying to get rid of it. You have to look at the contextual, where it's at. The lexical is gone. It loses it in the lexical. That don't make sense, but it makes sense to somebody. And the lexical is gone. In the contextual, you find the plural form of the word. And so I had the computer to go in and look at every time this plural form of the word is used, except for a feast day. When was it used in exception of a feast day? And what it found is that the majority of the time is going to be associated with, Passover, unleavened bread, or the Sabbath day. And so when it found the ones that's not associated with feast days, I asked it, okay, tell me where you see the relationship between this word, this plural word, and any type of celebration. In other words, they're celebrating this year, they're having an annual celebration outside of a feast day. And so when I did that, the only days that came up, the only people that came up was Ahasuerus at his feast with Vashti, Cain, Joseph, when he had his brothers there at the table. He gave the computer implied that one of the reasons why Benjamin got so much extra was because it was his birthday. They were having a celebration there in Egypt. Who else it was named? And the thing about it, even the weddings and everything, they're named weddings, birthday parties, Man's Day parties, was the only thing I believe it named. I got the video. But it named, and the thing about it, every one of them was associated with death until you get to the one where the Messiah was invited. The marriage festival where the Messiah was invited was the only day that they celebrated outside of a feast day where somebody didn't get killed. I'm going to say that one more time. Out of all of the days that they celebrated in the whole Bible, that they was associated with feast days, it was joy, happiness, but every time they had a celebration that was not connected to our Lord's holy days, every time they sat there and celebrated a different day than what we were told to celebrate, something bad happened. And even the one that the Messiah was brought into, the one that was brought into, that's the only one that somebody didn't actually die. It was worse, or, close. But even then, it was brought out that the people ran out of wine at a wedding, which was like a huge fiasco for them to actually run out of wine at a wedding. And so that would have been a big disaster for that family, embarrassment and everything. You couldn't even have enough wine for the wedding. Didn't you plan this thing all these months? But it's just wine. All that poor. But because they had brought the Messiah and invited the Messiah, he was able to turn it around. Oh, it's big. We ain't supposed to be celebrating nothing outside of the thing. No special days of the year. There's no annual days of the year. And you celebrate, and the message is you celebrate any anniversary and you're about to catch a beating. And that would imply wedding anniversaries, all kinds of stuff. And it also implies that if you did do so, you can invite the Messiah. While you do so, the way we understand, like I said, I'm making up stuff, is to invite poor people. You have poor people. And that's, they of course, they didn't know they was inviting the Messiah, but they was inviting, the Messiah wouldn't have been of a wealthy family, right? And so by him being here, they would have invited poor people. And so that might have been why nobody actually physically had to die at this place. But if they had been just a straight up, them in all their glory, and don't tell them what would have happened to their marriage. It might have cursed their whole marriage. Anyway, what else you got?
Joy. I don't know what emoji that is, but Kwamiel says, I thought I remembered reading that the sacrifice that Cain was making that was rejected was a sacrifice to see if Yahuwah would bless his desire to marry his sister. Both Cain and Abel desired to marry, and they were told to make a sacrifice, and if it were accepted, then it meant Yahuwah would bless Yah would bless the marriage. Cain and his sister refused to sacrifice a lamb. Instead, they offered the fruit of the land, which was rejected. So, it's just some further study we looked into.
Yep, and did it all on his birthday. Did it all on his birthday. Go ahead.
And that was the last so far.
Yeah, so here it is, guys. And this is what they've been doing to us. Like I said, I'm making up stuff. We're just now in the early stages of these classes. But this is what they're doing to us. After we then, gone down this path of rebellion, they're systematically putting birthdays on us, making us celebrate other people's birthday parties, which is bad enough. That's going to get us cut off. And you can imagine how many birthdays you can come up with in a year. I mean, everybody got a birthday. But then on the next level, they're actually celebrating our own birthdays and going into our houses and getting our wives to celebrate birthdays. Now, you can imagine how worse that is when you got a man of the Lord or a woman of the Lord trying to serve the Lord, and all her knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is over there doing the worst thing he could possibly be doing, and that's having a birthday party. And so that's why there was an attack on our families. That's why they're pushing these birthday parties in down to the children. Like I said, put billboards of their birthdays out there on the road. Every time you have a birthday party, everybody at your birthday party sees you as a god. And we ain't talking about principalities and powers. We're talking about something beyond your control. These are the bonds. These are traps. These are traps. And so we don't understand we're on trap because it's all fun and nice and happy. You know, we got all these presents and all these singing and songs and family stuff going on. But the thing is, not only can we not get out of it, but it's actually creating a perpetual separation between us and our Father in heaven. So they're traps. So anybody might come tell you, you know, you ain't got a swift kick them in the side of the face like I want to do. But nobody should be telling you about a birthday. You should be shutting it, especially us on Facebook. You know, I have to go in there and do some work on that too. I wish it was like YouTube, where I can put in a certain word that it gets rejected, and maybe I can. I will put in the word birthday, and anybody who said the word birthday on my first Facebook thing will automatically, that comment would get deleted, and I would never see it. It would be as if they was cussing and using profanity. You can do that on YouTube real easy and choose any word on YouTube and treat it like profanity. Like if I didn't want y'all calling me by my real name, every time y'all would say my real name, your comment would get instantly, well, it wouldn't get deleted. It would come up and I would get a question. Do you really want people to see this comment? And I would get to make the choice. YouTube needs to be like that. Why? Because so you never get reminded of your birthday.
Facebook.
Facebook needs to be like, so you guess that's all they doing. First year they're gonna remind you. Later on they're gonna be trying to throw a party for you. And anyway, Stacy warming up. She gotta get out there in the show. So we're gonna go ahead and close this video out. If you got anything out of it, hit the like button. Drop down in the comment section, please. Let's keep the conversation going about these birthdays. Give me your test, your understandings about birthdays. Like I said, this is going to be a series. This is really important because that's the way they are attacking us. Through our birthdays. Worst, that's the worst. You know, ain't nobody coming here and throwing no Christmas ham over the gate. All they got to say is happy birthday, and they can say that from a quarter mile away. So let's be on guard, y'all. That's what they doing to us. And with that, I'm going to close this video out. If you got anything out of it, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button, but leave us a comment either way. And shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Love you.